Okay, this is part 3 of our lesson on digitizing a quilt block in Design Center. All right, we are on the part where we're ready to stitch it out. So I've got my fabric hooped. I'm going to make a pillow, and I'm ready to do the first placement stitch, which is the kitty. And I've got everything all loaded like I did in my last video, and we're ready to go. All right, perfect. All right, there's our placement stitch. So now I'm going to lay my white fabric for my kitty on top of that. Make sure, yep, I got it. Looks good over here. Okay. Now I backed my fabric, this white fabric, with Woven Fuse 2. It's got a tighter weave than Woven Fuse 1, which is comparable to, it's not Woven Fuse 1, it's the original Woven Fuse, but it's comparable to SF 101. This fabric was a little bit see-through, so I didn't want to see spiders through my ghost, although my husband did point out that it's a ghost and it's see-through, but I didn't listen to him today. All right, so let me just double check again. Ooh, see, look at it. Get it on there in the right place. Where's his arm? Over here, and his tail. Ooh, I cut that really close. And because I did that, I think I'm going to go like that a teeny bit. So his arm and his leg are here. And you probably can't see it because it's out of the camera. But the rest of it looks good. Okay. Let's go ahead and do our tack down stitch. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop it. It doesn't need to go around twice. That looks good. Okay, so now I'm going to take the hoop out carefully and I'm going to trim all around this little kitty ghost right here. All right, cut all around, and I cut as close as I could. Remember how we talked about cutting close and what size satin stitch, what width you put on there? It needs to be, so we put it at 4, so that means my satin stitch is going to stick out 2 millimeters on this side and 2 millimeters on this side. So if you can't cut as close as I did, or at least really close to that, you may need to make your satin stitch wider. All right, let's go ahead and stitch this out. Oops, nope. Remember, I wanted it to go, I stopped it from going around twice. It's not going to stitch that. It's going to stitch the place down, or the tack down stitch. So let's get rid of that. Make sure that's not all jacked up. Okay, now we're going to stitch it. All right, all satin stitching around the kitty cat done. And next, we're going to do the placement stitch for the word boo. Here we go. Okay, the placement stitch for boo is done. And before I go on, I want to point something out. In the second video, when I was working on the eyes and the nose and the mouth, and I made a comment that it's you kind of never know what order it's going to stitch out in when you have multiple little objects that you're doing at one time. Um, when it did the kitty, it did this and then it skipped over here and did this, then it goes back and forth. It did the same thing on the boo. So it stitched the outside of the bee, then it stitched over here, then it went over here, then it went back over here and made one of these. It went back and forth. It doesn't hurt anything, but just something to point out that it doesn't, if you did it in software, it would stitch out in the order that you created it. However you drew it on there with your nodes, it would stitch out in that order. This machine does not do that. Okay, so now we're going to take our piece of fabric. I'm using this cute little orange piece of fabric, and I'm going to put it on here. I got to make sure that I'm right where I should be. And I am. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch the tack down stitch. All right, placement and tack down all done. Off to cut it out. All right, all cut out around the boo, ready to satin stitch. Okay, boo all finished. We're ready for the placement stitch for the eyes, the nose, and the ears. All right, let's place our applique fabric down, just like so. Keep going. Fabric all tacked down. I'm going to go cut that out. Last bit of satin stitching around the ears, the eyes, and the nose. The face is finished. One last step. Now we're going to stitch the whiskers and the little cheeks. And done. He's super cute. Okay, I'm off to make a pillow. All finished. Came out really cute. If you would like to have the Boo Kitty drawing to follow along with the lesson, you are more than welcome to it. I'm going to make it available on my website for download, and I will put it in the files section of some of the groups that I'm going to post this in. There's more than one way to do this. If you have a scan and cut, you can actually send your placement stitches as SVGs to your scan and cut, let it do all the work, and then you just simply apply them over your placement stitches and let the machine do the rest of the work. But that's going to be in another video, I think. See you next time.